Okay, there you go. All right, I want to thank you very much, Ashley, for joining us tonight. This is a very exciting night for us because we're going to talk about second chances. And I think that if you were part of the name game, you got to hear people's attitude, whether they're pro or con, dead to you. Okay, that we apparently we will kill off people if it's not something that. Yeah, I'm kind of I love the name game because it gets me to know my fellow readers, which is always exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, that was
Okay,
super
everybody.
fun.
Yeah, okay.
But an exacting crowd, so we'll see how this goes.
Yeah.
With Lee Stone and her fate.
Okay, I want to welcome Ashley Winstead tonight. She holds a Ph.D. in Contemporary American Literature from Southwestern Methodist University, SMU here in Dallas. Yay. And a BA in English and Art History from Vanderbilt University. She lives in Houston, Texas, which is not that far away from Dallas, 3 hours or so. It depends on how fast you actually drive or if you fly. I think if you fly, it's like 4 hours getting through security and then all the rainstorms, right? And she loves to drink red wine and dream up novels. So I think that she is like a perfect fit for here, guys, right? So, hi, Ashley. Welcome to the Fresh Fiction Book Club. We are so excited, as you can tell, for you to join us tonight. And hopefully you can also tell, we are a very relaxed group. So the conversation is going to be light and fun. And I'd like to get started by asking you, because we already heard about the readers who are here, but tell us about yourself and what sparked your interest in writing.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sarah. It is very exciting to be here, and that was super fun to hear what everyone's reading and listening to. So a little bit about me. I debuted with a thriller. So in August, I had a thriller come out called In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. So Fool Me Once is my romance debut, but technically my sophomore novel. And then I have another thriller coming out this August. I should probably know that off the top of my head. If you would have asked me years ago when I was trying to be a published writer, I would have told you that I was a romance writer and also probably like a YA contemporary fantasy writer, because those were the genres that I wrote in. And it's actually a little bit funny and arbitrary that my first book that I published was a thriller. So all that to say, romance is very near and dear to my heart. Huge, voracious romance reader. Very excited to get to part of your world that was mentioned in the earlier conversation. And I started writing Fool Me Once in 2020 during the beginning of the pandemic shutdown. So it was my escape. It was the sunshine that I needed. I kind of tried to create a bubble, a world of comedy and happily ever afters that I very desperately needed at that time. And yeah, it is the first of, I hope, a few books in the we call the Stonerverse. So for those who've read, that's Lee Stone, the main character's nickname.
Okay, so that's really interesting. Is that you're that you're writing such kind of different genres, because sometimes romance writers can do a romantic suspense, but you're like separating it. You've got a thriller, and then you've got sort of almost a rom-com, but a romance. Yeah. Okay, so how do you split your brain?
Oh, that is the question that my romance editor at HarperCollins asked me on one of our first calls, because my thrillers are very, very dark thrillers. Like they're on the other side of the spectrum. And she asked me, are you two different people, like inside your head? And I thought she was clearly joking and that we were gonna have like a witty repartee, the two of us. And so I was like, yes, absolutely. That's in fact how I do it. I have two people in here, and I think I delivered it a little bit too deadpan, because she just kind of like her made a face like, oh no, I've stepped in something that I didn't anticipate. But no, it's like each book I write is kind of like the break I need from the book that I've written before, and whatever mind frame I've been in. When I write books, I'm in that atmosphere, kind of like in that brain space for months of writing it. So when I'm in my thrillers, I'm tense. Like if my husband walks too quietly behind me and scares me, kind of like freak out, and just like on edge for months. And then I take a break from that, writing the romance, and then I'm ready to go be scared again, I guess.
Okay, so I know a little bit about the publishing industry. So sometimes you'll be getting edits back while you're still writing the other book. So how do you split your brain, especially if you said that, even your husband can scare you by sneaking up behind you. So how do you split your brain if the same week, for example, or even the same day that you're writing, let's say your romance, but you're editing the thriller? How does that work?
I don't know. I feel like I'd have to like peer into my own brain, just that it feels very natural, I guess. It feels like different switches that I flip, and I can get really sucked in pretty quickly to writing, each different genre, and settle into like the flow and the mind frame. Though I will confess that there are a few times where I've been writing in each respective genre, and I'll write something, or like my instinct will be to, write a plot point or some dialogue that is much too light and jokey if I'm writing my thriller, or is like way too serious in my rom-com, and I'll have to remind myself, no, um, there's no murder in this book. This is a happy ever after. So I slip up sometimes.
Okay, well, let's talk about the happy ever after first. Okay, so tell us about your book, Fool Me Once. We all, you heard our opinions about second chances, and this is a book truly about second chances. So tell us what inspired the story.
Yeah, I guess this is where I reveal myself as a person who very much believes in second chances, and have always loved the second chance romance trope the most. Like that's just my favorite as a reader. From a writerly perspective, I think it's like God tier trope. There's nothing better, in my opinion, for bringing immediate tension and heat to your book, because you've got two characters with all of this backstory. And I know a lot of the comments were probably in the vein of like friendship and people who've wronged you, but within the romance world, I guess I love that tension and that like torment and the banter. And so Second Chance really gives you that opportunity to play with that as a writer. And there is like nothing so good for banter, in my opinion, than someone who knows you very intimately and knows exactly what to say to like push your buttons. So that was very fun to write. But on a personal level, my husband is my second chance romance. We met when we were young in college, and we were the right people at the wrong time. So we weren't ready for each other. But we came back together later on in our life, and it was magical. And so, yeah, he's kind of my Ben in a way.
Okay, and you said, excuse me, you set this book in. It's very interesting their jobs, because they would be naturally could be. I mean, it sounds like one's almost like a lobbyist, and the other one is working for the politician. I mean, it just sounds like. Do you have a background in that, or how did you do research for it?
Yeah, I totally cheated because I gave Lee a job that I had at the time. So that was it was very easy to research because I just brought a lot. Before I was able to become a full-time writer, which I did, I made that switch this past June. I worked my day job as a communications director for like a policy minded philanthropic organization, which is a mouthful, but basically just worked behind the scenes to try to pass policies, progressive policies around the country, and in Texas. And so all of the things that I witnessed for 5 years in that job, all of the political shenanigans and the behind closed doors debacles, I kept like a running list in my head, just thinking, man, this would make such great comedy. This would make like perfect satire. And so I knew that there was a lot of potential there. And I loved the idea of Lee Stone, this woman who has convinced herself that she does not need love and that there is no such thing as monogamy and that just doesn't exist. Being also like this PR comms guru who's so good at spinning things and convincing people of truths. I just thought that was a nice marriage between, you know, her job and her brain.
Okay, so did you put any real life scenarios or situations
This
in
is the part where I get in trouble,
Romance?
if I admit.
Okay, yeah, well, you
Yes,
could
I will
just,
just leave it there.
okay,
Yes, but no one from my old job has reached out to tell me that I'm in trouble. So so far so good.
okay. And then you said earlier that you hope to put more books into this universe. So you want to tell us a little bit about that? Any little hints, any little sneak peeks?
Yeah, so I, without spoiling anything for anyone who hasn't picked up the book or finished it, there will be a second book at least in this. My agent and I call it the Stonerverse, which is not the official name, but that's our shorthand. There will be a second book, and it is coming out next year, so in spring 2023. It is as of now titled Natural Disasters, and it follows Alexis, Lee's younger sister. And again, I won't say why she deserves her own happy ending, but if you read the book, you'll think, yes, poor Alexis needs her own love story to be written. So I'm very excited about that.
Well, that sounds very exciting. And did I read someplace that this book has been picked up for film or TV, or am I completely confused?
Oh, not this one.
Oh, another book, the
I
thriller.
Yeah, so one of my thrillers which is exciting, has been picked up by Netflix. And so that's exciting, but I've still got my fingers crossed for Fool Me Once, though romance adaptations are very hard to come by. And which is, you know, makes me unhappy. And I'm hoping that Bridgerton will change that and a lot more romance novels will get adapted by streamers and others.
And yeah, okay. I love thrillers, and I really want to ask you about that, but I
Ask
guess
me
I should.
anything, yeah.
Okay, tell us about the thriller book. It just came out, right? It just came out this year
No,
or last year.
yes, my thriller In My Dreams I Hold a Knife is my debut, and it came out in August 2021. So I've published now 2 books during the pandemic. So
Yeah.
very excited for the world to hopefully get safer and open up for book tours and in-person events, because I've never experienced that before. And so it's actually my next thriller, though, that was optioned by Netflix, called The Last Housewife. And that is I call it my cult revenge thriller about a woman who is going back to avenge the deaths of her friends and diving into a very dark and sadistic underground world where men want to go back to traditional gender roles and want to kind of force women back into subjugation. And it looks eerily like this last week's news. Anyway, so what timing? Yeah, it's very, very dark. So we will see how that translates if it ever gets made.
Yeah. So where do you get the inspiration? Okay, so we heard the inspiration because you believe in second chances, and it was the industry that you worked in, so you didn't have to do a lot of research, you know. So do you kill people? I mean, you know, how do you do your thrillers? What kind of research? How do you do your research for those?
Those are also based on my real life. No, I'm just kidding. Ex-boyfriends, also the ones that I've killed. Just kidding for the FBI when this gets like scanned. I basically all of my books, whether they're about murder and reckoning, cults, or people falling in love are, I feel like they're like little pieces of me, things that I need to find grace and healing and process. So in my dreams I hold a knife, my first thriller was a book about jealousy and toxic perfectionism, and Fool Me Once is about just being a person who needs second chances, which I would argue is all of us, and like finding the grace for yourself in order to heal yourself, to be a person who can give love as much as you receive it. And The Last Housewife is about my feminist rage. So yeah, they're all like just little pieces of me that I spin into plots and stories, I guess.
Well, that's great. So I'm going to move right now into what we call our fresh fiction facts, because some of them, and it's just like rapid fire. You just tell us the first thing that comes off your head.
Okay.
And you don't have to worry, they're not real unfriendly or anything. They're kind of fun. And you talked about that you have the two different types of books going on. You have the thriller and the romance. So how important are tropes to you in your writing process?
Love them, especially in the context of romance. So with Fool Me Once, it was not only second chance that I wanted to write about, but enemies to lovers, only one bed, and the list goes on. I'll try to keep it short. I just remembered this is short answers.
Oh, okay. So besides second chance romances, what are your other favorite tropes to read, as you know, personally?
Oh, yeah, just the one that I just mentioned, enemies to lovers, is everything to me. I love it. And I will give a shout out to a recent favorite, which is fake dating. I have never encountered this in real life. No one who has fallen in love with someone through a fake dating scenario, but I eat it up. It's wonderful. And actually, book 2 of the Stonerverse, Alexis's book, is a fake dating book because I love it so much.
Okay. So out of all the genres that are out there, popular fiction, what is your favorite genre to read?
Ooh, to read. Probably contemporary romance. That is the genre I turn to most frequently, followed closely by thrillers.
How about what genre do you never want to read again?
Ooh, I'm not a big historical fiction fan. I apologize. I don't know why, it doesn't spark in my brain.
Yeah, it could be dry.
I know there are writers who do it so well, so no shade to them. But yeah, for some reason, it doesn't grip me as much as other genres.
So what is your favorite time of the day to write? You said you're a full-time writer now.
Yeah. Well, I write all day, every day. So and I know that is not sustainable. And so this is me being like very giddy that I'm able to do it for now, and knowing that the end is coming. And but so far for the last few months, I think I've been so grateful and so excited to be a full-time writer, which was a dream that I've had all my life. That I just wake up in the morning so excited to sit down and write, and don't want to be pulled away from it until my husband, forces me to eat some dinner. So I'm lucky that he takes over a lot of the domestic labor for that.
Oh, so he cooks for you.
He does, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, this is why I took him back after.
Yes, I was gonna say, he is a keeper. He is a
Yes.
keeper if he cooks for you.
Yes.
Yes, definitely. Okay, what is one hobby or practice that you picked up recently?
Ooh. I'm going to say mindfulness, if that's an answer. And I'm not like practicing it formally, but I realized that I've gotten a lot I can get really in my own head. And recently I've started allotting about half an hour to 45 minutes to just sit in a peaceful place outside in the shade. It's getting hot here in Houston, but sit in the shade and just let myself blank out. And it's really, really recharges me. So I recommend it.
Yeah. Yes, you have to do that early in the morning in Houston. And it'll get really hot, and muggy, really hot and muggy in Houston. Yeah. Okay. Who was your first book boyfriend or girlfriend?
That is such a good question. I don't know if I'm gonna remember. I can vividly remember my first movie boyfriend, which was Richie Rich, Macaulay Culkin. I was in love with him as a young girl. But first book boyfriend, oh, I can't remember. But I will say a recent one was Elliot Petropoulos from Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. I
Yeah.
really fell hard for him.
Okay. So now that you're a full-time writer, but even before that, what is your favorite writing fuel?
Because I mentioned that I write all day, I am a
Uh-huh.
coffee to wine writer. So I start out in the morning with my coffee and I don't quit until maybe an hour or so after I've had a glass of wine. So that, yeah, and I also reserve certain scenes to write while in my wine hour. I'll like be writing them earlier and think like, oh nope, we're gonna save that for the wine hour because we're gonna.
What is your
And
favorite,
yeah,
wine? What is your favorite red wine?
oh, so many. I think I'm really into red blends right now, so just throw a
Uh,
whole bunch of different grapes in and love that. But just in favor of anything earthy, full-bodied, tobacco-y, so just like real deep, rich reds.
okay. Do you have any favorite vineyard or anything?
That's a great question. I got engaged in Tuscany and we went to, I was born in Italy. And so I told my now husband while we were in college that one day it was my dream to get proposed to in Italy, the country I was born in.
Mhm.
And he remembered all those years
Oh,
later and took me to Italy. So yeah, that again, this is why sometimes second chances
yeah.
is worth it. But yeah, I'm trying to remember. There's a Roncaglia is the name of a vineyard that's in Tuscany, and it is just one of my absolute favorites for the wine and the view of like the Tuscan beauty and glory of that landscape.
Oh, that sounds delicious. I mean, yeah. Oh gosh. Okay.
Lots of
I'm
yeses.
gonna be really thirsty now. It'll be fine. What is one luxury item you can't live without?
Ooh. Instacart. Am I allowed to say that? If that qualifies as like a luxury item, it feels like a
Oh
luxury
yeah.
to me.
Yes.
To not have
Yes.
to grocery shop, and I foresee myself hanging on to that back when everything is fully opened, which we're getting there soon. But yeah, that's one of my favorite luxuries.
Yes, that makes me laugh because both of my children can't get Instacart or DoorDash with as much of a variety as what I can get. And so when they say, "Oh, we can't do that," I just look at them strangely because I mean they're living in Washington and Wisconsin, and I don't understand. It's not like it's a foreign place. I mean, they should. I mean, we can
Yeah,
even get 7-Eleven delivered here through Instacart. What's wrong with
I
that?
know. That is fascinating to me. And now I feel even luckier than I did before. It's like I don't need designer shoes or bags. Just save me a trip to the grocery store and I'll be very happy.
Yeah, or even what's really nice, okay, this is really tacky and I'm sorry, but because we live in Texas, so you understand the dry law, the dry and wet counties and laws
Yeah,
and
oh
all that.
yeah.
But they all disappeared through the pandemic and now we can get delivery of liquor through, they could just drop it off at your door. I got some gin that way when I ran out of gin for my gin and tonics, and that was
Oh,
like lovely. I'm sorry.
that is not tacky. You are preaching to the choir here with me. I got my wine that I'm drinking delivered earlier today, so I'm right there with you.
I know. It's just wonderful, actually. Okay, so how do you celebrate a new release? I mean, I know that they came out in the pandemic, but how do
Yeah.
you have to celebrate it even a little
Oh
bit. So how
yeah.
do you do it?
So normally, what I've now have a routine that I've built for myself, because now there's 2 books that I've gotten the chance to release, and so I get up, usually spend all day on social media because there's just a lot of activity and people are usually very kind and posting about the book, and it's just fun to be able to like dissolve yourself into that world of excitement. And then usually there have been like events, like interviews or bookstore signings at least, if not events. And in the evening, I have my favorite restaurant here in Houston, and my husband and I have an 8:45 reservation. So that's usually late enough that all the events are over for the day. We go to this restaurant called Squabble here in Houston. And we cheers with sparkling rosé, because that's my favorite way to celebrate, and just have a dinner, the 2 of us.
Oh, that sounds delightful.
Yeah,
Absolutely
that's my
delightful.
routine.
Yeah. What advice would you give to your younger self?
Oh my gosh, I have so much, because I really did things the wrong way. I really screwed up on this journey to being a published writer. Always wanted to be a writer from a very young age, which is true of many writers, but went to college for it, majored in creative writing, and I think thought that the path to being a writer was, okay, I'm graduating undergrad and now I'm going to go get my MFA, because I looked at my writing professors and I saw that they all had MFAs, and I thought, well, that's how you do it. So I applied to a dozen MFA programs. I was rejected at 22 from all of them. And I took that to be the world's repudiation of my talent as a writer. And like the final word, basically I just took that rejection very personally and didn't write for 10 years after that, which is the thing that I wish I could go back and shake 22-year-old me by the shoulders and just say, oh my God, there's so much more rejection coming. Like, you can't let any of it stop you. Like the only thing that divides, people who are published and people who aren't, who just keep, is like persistence. And so I would have changed losing a decade of not writing. But it worked out, and I gained a lot of great life experience. And so it's not like a full and total regret. But yeah, I would really kind of kick myself if I could.
Well, I mean, that's fine, but I think that I'm very happy to hear that you took that as a learning experience and you could just refer to it as research. You had to do 10 years of research before you put the pen to paper, so to speak. Right?
I love that.
Yeah. Okay. So I'd like to end this on letting people know, what are you working on next? You sort of said it before, but tell us again. And then also where readers can stay in touch with you.
Yeah, so I am finishing up edits on book 2, Natural Disasters, which follows Lee's younger sister. It's a fake dating book, and it's super fun. But Alexis is very different from Lee, so it was also fun to play with their dynamic. And I am currently drafting the book that I just announced last week, which is my 3rd thriller called Midnight is the Darkest Hour. And it is a serial killer thriller set in South Louisiana. So I told you, very different ends of the spectrum there. And I'm really enjoying oscillating between drafting the dark one and edits on the romance. Oh, and you can find me at ashleywinstead.com, at Ashley Winstead Books on Instagram. That's normally where I hang out, though I am on Twitter and other social media lightly, but Bookstagram is my favorite place.
Okay. And would you like to play the name game with us? Can you tell us what you have been reading, watching, listening to? And again, just tell us what our bonus question is, do you give second chances?
Okay, I love talking about what I'm reading. It's my favorite question. So I am currently reading My Summer Darlings by May Cobb, which is a thriller that is coming out very soon, in May, actually. that just calculated in my brain that it's coming out very soon. I have an event with May coming up, and so I'm really excited. This book is fantastic. It's like a thriller take on the witches of Eastwick, is how May describes it, but it's about a handsome, mysterious man who moves to an East Texas town, and just three best friends fall in love with him and terrible things ensue. It's so twisty and juicy. I've just finished watching Heartstoppers on Netflix, which was phenomenal. If you haven't watched that series, it's so endearing. I like screamed into my pillow like 5 different times while watching it. It's so romantic. And let's see, listening to, I don't really do podcasts or anything like that, but I've been listening to a lot of Florence and the Machine on repeat because it's helping me get into a mind frame for my writing. And I do believe in second chances, as previously stated. Yeah,
because you got your husband that way, and that's
I got my husband that way.
delightful and adorable. I love that. Well, Ashley, thank you very much, and you've agreed to stay around for a few minutes for Q&A, but we won't record those so we can get the whole scoop on things that you could tell us all the dirty little secrets that we won't tell anybody else. So thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you in a little bit.
Yeah, thank you for having me.